are episode 7, Iron Age Radio. We're continuing our streak here of unbelievable strongman guests from all over the world. First, we had Sam Beliveau, one of the greatest female strongmen, strong women, going today. We had Josh Spurgeon, one of the up-and-coming, real big names in the sport coming. And now we have the man. He came second place in the 2021 Brickhouse Manitoba Classic in the men's open weight division. James, the Train, Tyler Jeffers. Thanks for joining me today, James.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, that was the one and only time you've beaten me.
But it did happen, though.
It happened.
So that's important. We all have to remember that. It was quite a little while ago now, so I have to make sure that we refresh that and make sure everyone remembers.
And 2024, second strongest man in Canada, but yeah.
Well,
thanks for having me.
Yeah, that's fine, I guess, but whatever. We're talking about the Brickhouse thing right now. So James came down. Mr. Jeffers came down and was very, very gracious and lent his time. You're prepping for OSG right now.
Yeah.
I know that everybody it was a grip competition. I'm getting ahead of myself. We had a grip competition yesterday that James came and refereed. And I know that everybody appreciates that you came down. I know that I do because you're in the middle of a very rigorous OSG prep.
Yep.
Probably more so, like everyone wants to do their best at OSG, but I think that you kind of have a higher standard for yourself than a lot of people do right now, where a lot of people are happy just to be there. They're happy to perform. Maybe they want to make the finals, but you're trying to get to that next stage now. So you're trying to get on the podium.
Yeah.
And this isn't like playtime anymore for you with this.
No, it's not. Like last year, I came 5th place, and I was actually I was a non-travel reserve to get to World's Strongest Man, so I just missed out.
For people who might not know.
Okay, so last year the whole podium from OSG got invited to World's Strongest Man, and the guy in 4th, he got called up as well. So I was the next in line from my performance at OSG to be a reserve for World's Strongest Man. So
the next non-Italian person in line.
The next non-Italian person, yeah. So if people were getting injured, and as they always do every year, they have reserves, and I was reached out by the promoters to be a non-traveling reserve. So if one more person would have got injured or couldn't make it there, then I would have been next up. So, that's from placing 5th. So this year my goal is to podium. So I want to get to the next level. I want to join Tristan and Wes at the next level because I believe I can hang with them at certain levels. So I think it's definitely doable.
Right.
The events at OSG for me are kind of some are good, some are not so good, but I'm putting in the work to try and do what it takes to podium there.
What's one that you would say is not going to be one that's going to be your friend?
Well, as of lately, my log press has kind of been up and down. So at that competition,
as log pressing typically is.
Yeah, usually should be up and down.
Up and then down.
So it's been kind of up and down in training, but in this competition, it's either 350 or 380 for reps. So, I mean, that's no joke. That's some pretty heavy weight. Even 350 is decently heavy. So 380, you have to make sure you're on the ball, no mistakes, and you can't afford to miss a rep. So that one I'm kind of nervous about because I'm not going there to win it, but if I could just be, top half, top third, and just be consistent, that's what I need to get the good points. Even deadlift, it's a very heavy deadlift. For reps, and I think I can bang out a few reps there. So, and then yoke. Yoke has been kind of hit and miss for me.
And it's a weird yoke too. It's not just like a standard yoke, right?
Yeah, it's a big 1,000-pound car yoke. So they load it front to back, so it's very hard to balance, and the tires don't spin. So if you set your yoke height too low, your tires are going to hit the ground and really throw you off. So, some new implements for me, but I'm excited to try and make the finals. Really is step one is to make the finals.
And like that log press too, to go from 350 to 380, like 30 pounds might not seem like a lot if we're talking about say like 250 to 280 or something, right? Like, but when we're talking about like those higher numbers, like 30 pounds is like very significant when we're talking about that, when we're getting closer to that 400 number.
It is. It's almost a 10% increase. So
right.
that is quite a bit.
And I remember like when I was like a young guy doing strongman or whatever, if someone had a 400 log, that was like holy grail shit. Like that was not something that almost anybody had.
Yeah.
So like when you'd hear about guys like in Ontario, like OSM and stuff hitting like a high 300s log, and you were just like, man, God willing, someday I can get to something like that. And now you hear like it's like that has to be a normal log press now to be at this level. Like
100%. America's Strongest Man was 360 for reps.
Yeah.
And the winning number was 6.
Yeah.
So like 380 is even heavier. So I mean, the standard just keeps raising every year, even in Canada too. Like max log starts at 350. So
Yeah.
that's insane. But that's just this is the standard that's set right now.
I mean, it helps too that we have like JF kind of running the shit, who's like the static king god, you know what I mean, or static strength god. So when he has no mercy when it comes to these numbers, like whether it's deadlift, log, any kind of static pressing or lifting in general event. Like we've been kind of forced, the Canadian scene, to really get to that level, and I think we should be thankful for it. Because these other guys are doing it. You see America's Strongest Man, like you said, like they're doing 360 for reps, and I think only one guy didn't hit 360 for reps. Like you have to be at that level, and he's kind of doing a trial by fire with all of us to make sure that like whether or not we want it, we're going to be ready for those kind of shows.
100%. CSM is brutally heavy.
Yeah.
Some years it's 3 days, 10 events. Some years 2 days, 4 events. This year was the first time it's only been 6 events, but still 1,000-pound car yoke, heavy press medley, truck pull, max deadlift.
No break event in that one at all. There was no throw, no front hold, no nothing.
No break. And then even North Americans, it was also extremely heavy. The max log started at 365. So it's, and the dumbbell ladder started at 200 or 220, 200. Like he's definitely, setting the bar high for us in Canada, but it's only making us better.
He takes a lot of pride in it. I think that it matters to him that Canadian guys are not being given any kind of like easy way out. Like especially like I know that he like the expectation until recent years, the expectation has been a little bit lower from the Western guys, and I think that it probably is like a nice thing for him to see out east that it's like we don't have to baby them anymore. You know what I mean? And in fact, the Western guys are in a lot of ways like surpassing some of the Eastern guys in a lot of these lifts or competitions or events or whatever.
Yeah, we're starting to catch up. Like, for the longest time, the guys in the East have been, always on the podium consistently. And, Wes has always been there too, but he's still east of Manitoba.
But he's a young guy too. It's only been like, he has been only that for a few years now in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, so it is. The Western guys are starting to catch up, and even you can't even predict who the top 3 or top 4 are going to be at Westerns anymore. Before, you kind of used to know, going back, it was always Brad and Scott. Like, those two are going to be 1, 2. And now, for the past 3 years, it's been me and Sean top 2, and then you for third, and Colton for third. So and Tristan, like it's all getting shooken up. So it's getting harder and harder to be competitive in the West and in Canada.
Even like that first one in 2022 that I did, like I think guys were kind of like, oh, this is how the podium will shake out. And then I happened to sneak in there and surprise some people. But then the next year, people were like, all right, this is probably going to be our top 5. And that's what it was.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then, but now it's like, okay, this will be our top 10, but we don't really, you know what I mean? It's hard to we have an idea of who'll be on the podium. We'll have an idea of who'll be top 5. But like Sam Risling coming last year and really having a great performance at Westerns and sneaking in there and at 5th, I think it was. He got one place ahead of me, so he was 5th.
Okay,
And like Lars being brand new. And these guys are doing like real damage, and it's not easy to predict anymore.
It's not. Every year it's getting harder, and now we got a couple more Western pros joining the circuit as well. So it'll be interesting to see how they stack up next year, and also the rest of the amateurs that are, everything is getting heavier every year. So they are going to have to keep getting stronger every year, and it seems like they are. So I'm excited to see how next year turns out for the guys in the West.
Yeah,
and Westerns in itself.
Westerns is going to be a pretty wild show next year, I think.
It's going to be. Not sure what the events are going to be, but...
we already know all the events.
But
what's on the rumor wind-up this week?
I haven't heard any rumors. People have been... it's been radio silent lately. But,
really?
Yep.
But we're going to be prepping for it. Whatever the events are, we're going to train for them. So it's going to be competitive for everyone. So
I think that there's like... Yeah, there's it's funny, like we talked about this earlier, where it's like someone's like, oh, like we're going to have a squat. So that'll really favor this group of guys.
Yeah.
It's like we can all improve our squats.
100%.
You know what I mean? Like we're all going to get better at it, but by the time it hits there, it's not going to be as obvious. Like, there's a guy like say like Brad who's like a fucking squat monster. Like that's he has the best squat right now in one of the best in Canada in general in the world.
Yeah.
But when we're talking about doing something where it's like maybe it's an apparatus and maybe it's for reps and it's like that's going to change and that's not going to be as simple as like who has the heaviest squat anymore. And when we talk about the fact that Westerns isn't until June.
Yeah,
it's really hard to say who's gonna maybe Brad wins that one, maybe he doesn't. You know what I mean? Maybe Colton wins a squat event, maybe he doesn't. Like it's like these guys are all good at squatting, but things can really change. We've seen in a very short period of time.
You've seen, and same with deadlift too. Like people perform better on car deadlifts than they do a regular bar deadlift or a deadlift ladder. So 100%. I don't even know if I've ever squatted with an apparatus. Like I've only done the squat at CSM, where it's those big globes to platforms, and you have to bang them out. So you never know what it's going to feel like. So.
Like a guy like Dan has a really good squat too. Like he's got
the levers for it.
Yeah, exactly. He's built a squat, and you give him a little bit of time where he's focusing solely on getting better at squatting, and it's really hard to tell where guys will be at that point.
Yeah, 100%.
I want to touch a little bit too on CSM this year, because you had a hell of a day that day. The best placing you've had so far at CSM. The best placing that a Western Canadian has had at CSM.
Yep.
I don't believe anyone, no one's gotten second before, right? I think third was the best.
Third was the best from Scott. I can't remember the year, but he got third, and then also Sean has gotten third. So, that was actually my fourth trip to CSM. But the first time I was there volunteering.
Helping out, I remember that.
Keelan was there working, and I came along with her, and Ryan and Reston were there as sponsors. I was like, hey, I'll help and volunteer. So I was helping move equipment, and that's when it was a blanket year, so they invited every pro.
Right.
So like Isaac was there, Sam, Sean, Art, Brad, everyone.
Yeah.
So I was just there volunteering. I was happy to be there. And then JF came up to me and he was like, you look like you're, do you lift? Do you compete? I'm like, yeah, I do. I was like, I'm an amateur. He's like, oh, nice to see you. I'm like, yeah, I'll be here next year.
Nice.
And I was.
And then you were.
So the first year I was eighth place, I believe. So I zeroed 3 events out of 10. So 30% of the events I zeroed.
Yeah.
And then, my goal for the next year was just to get a little bit better.
Right.
And then I got 5th last year. So I said, hey, I just got to get better. And that was the goal. I was like, hey, I want a podium. And I ended up getting 2nd place. So I exceeded my goal, but now it makes it a little bit harder, because now the only way I can improve my placing is by winning it, which is pretty hard to do. But.
There's a great quote from Tom McGee when he got 2nd place at World's Strongest Man, and they interview him the next year, and he's like, I have a very modest goal this year. I just want to move up 1 placing in the rankings, so that's all that I need.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the position that you're in now, where it's an interesting thing where there's only one way to go up, only one spot to go up, and that's to 1st place. But I mean, not to glaze you too much here, but like that doesn't seem like a crazy thing, winning next year.
It doesn't. And you could almost say that for every competition. It does come down to the events. Mm-hmm. But let's say for this year's CSM, not only myself, but a couple others also competed at the Shaw Classic, literally the week before. Mm-hmm. So not using it as an excuse, but like I was not fresh.
Right.
I didn't prep for CSM because I was busy competing at Westerns, North Americans, Shaw, and then CSM. So it was kind of just hanging on by a thread.
Right.
But I was able to keep together. I was pretty banged up going into that show. I tweaked my lat on the deadlift on the first event. So I was like, man, we're in for a long day. But, the competition got over to the last whistle blows. I was in 4th place going into the last event, being stones. I knew I could have a good performance, because at Shaw, the week before, I finished that stone run. And that was only 2 people to finish the stone run, so myself and Tim Buck. And it's a heavy stone run. It goes up to 450 pounds. Yeah. But to lower pedestals or platforms, not like CSM where they're 56-inch tiny pedestals that you can't touch them without them moving. So I've never finished. Well, this year was the first time I finished that stone run. So that was the goal too, is just, hey, let's finish. And I got to see some people go before me, yourself included, were like, you put up a very fast time and almost got the last one. So I'm like, man, I got to finish this year. So, I finished that stone run. The only guy to finish it this year, and the past 4 years, only myself and Max has finished
he
that.
He did 2022,
and well, I mean, he did it like 20 seconds faster. But, that jumped me from 4th to 2nd. So I'm very happy with that.
Well, those stone platforms are kind of, or whatever you want to call them, like the pedestals, the podiums, whatever, are exactly what we're talking about with JF making things hard on us, where it's like, I've never seen that anywhere else.
No,
I've never seen that besides shows that they have in Eastern Canada, where, and I think that'd probably be pretty shocking to somebody, say like the North American guys who come there and are like, what the fuck am I looking at here? You know what I mean? And it's, like you said, you can't touch it, you can't rest against it, you have to clear it and put it onto there, and it has to be some of the hardest stone loading that people do in the world, I think.
It is, and you have no reference. You're loading the stone, and you don't know if you're high enough, you don't know if you're close enough or far enough.
Yeah.
On that last stone, I was just going up. I'm like, I hope I'm high enough. I don't know. And then you just lean into it.
Yeah.
And you're like, holy shit, it loaded.
I had the exact same thing where I was like, I think that I'm there, and then I touched it, and I was like, shit, and I thought that I had it. And I did. And I remember the first year that I did it when me and Sean were at Canadians, and Sean was like, oh, like you were like, you had kind of like a sideways thing that you were doing. I was like, yeah, I couldn't see where I was going. Like I was trying to see the fucking thing, and I was just like, my instinct was like, I got to look around this stone to fucking see if I can get there. But yeah, so the Stones were a real good run for you that day. And like when we were talking before, where it's like there's guys like Wes who are at that next level where you're trying to get to, and you can beat Wes at a competition. You know what I mean? And this is like everyone thinks that it's like, oh, now I'm shit talking Wes. No, it's not what I'm doing. But I'm saying that Wes is an incredible strongman.
Yeah.
But on any given day, you guys can trade events like that or trade competitions like that.
Yeah, 100%. I really think that, well, maybe not everyone because Hooper's on his own level, but everyone is beatable. It comes down to the events, comes down to the day, and even those guys are a little bit above me. They're definitely beatable. I just got to keep putting in the work, and I know I can get to the next level, and I'm just getting stronger. So I'm excited to see where next year goes. Like the deadlift, max deadlift at CSM. It was on a Kratos deadlift bar, but I was pretty happy to break into the 900-pound raw deadlift club. Fred beat me by 925. So like even the standard in Canada for deadlifts is coming up. Like I remember. It was actually 3 years ago. I think I shared a memory of me hitting my first 800 deadlift, and it was terrible. Like, I think I hit shit 6 times in a suit, and it was gross. But at the time, like, there's only like a few people who have ever hit 800-pound deadlift, and then it's like, okay, what's next? 850?
Yeah.
Okay, what's next? 900? Okay, I'm there. Now what's next? 950? 1,000? Like, I'm excited to see where I can push it.
I mean, it's not crazy to think with say guys like you, Yannick, Fred, Tristan, that like. 1,000 pounds is going to be in let's say 5 years is going to be something that you're going to have to be really competitive on a national level in Canada. And the nice part about that is that if you're really competitive on a national level in Canada, you're competitive worldwide.
100%.
There's nobody who's like on top in Canada right now who couldn't be dropped in any other competition in the world and potentially be on the podium or win or whatever. So it's interesting to see how like. Canada's one of those countries that's kind of starting to dictate the pace of strongman a little bit.
It is, and I think this year at World's Strongest Man, I think that kind of proved it, having all the Canadians make the finals. So, like, there's no reason, in my opinion, that we can't have more Canadians there. Have 5, open it up, have 1 in every heat.
Sure.
100%, we'd be competitive there. I know it.
Yeah, when you say that all to make the finals, you got 2nd place, 5th place, West with a world record. Like, these guys just went in there and they just fucked shit up, and it's just like it's. I don't know. You can't say enough good things about where Canada Strongman is going right now, and it's on all the different tiers, whether it's World, OSG, just at the the Canadian the regional level, Giants Live.
Giants Live. Tristan, got 5th. I think West got 6th, I believe, and Max podiumed. He got 2nd at his Giants Live. So yeah, you put us in any Giants Live, and we're going to be in the top half.
Max dominating at North Americans.
That was a whole
dominating.
No one was touching them.
The truest sense of the word. And then we, you see, say like we just had the Rogue happen yesterday, just finished up, whatever, and Tristan didn't finish the way he wanted to finish on that one. But when you're at like we talked about, when you're at that level, guys are going to trade positions, trade spots. Like when you're getting 10th place out of the 10 best guys in the world at something. There's just nothing that you can say bad about that. Like
you can't. And again, like the rest of the world is, excuse me, just pushing this envelope and pushing the sport. And yeah, I'm sure Tristan didn't place where he wanted, but exactly, you're going against 9 other strongest men in the world. That everyone has a bad day, and I know he's looking to improve on that at the Magnus v Magnus in a couple of weeks, where you're going to be competing there too. So. And that's easy to try and relate to other people and amateurs that, everyone has a bad day. You're not going to have a perfect performance every single time. Some days aren't going to go the way you want, and you just got to shake it off. It's fine. Don't listen to the haters or just shake it off. It's just one bad day. You can always redeem yourself on the next one.
It's a very difficult thing to be like I would compare like strongman to say almost like maybe MMA or something, where there's only one face that people can look at to be whether or not things are working. You know what I mean? Or whether a day was good or bad or whatever. Where if you're in a team sport, the whole team, you can be like, the goalie had an off day, or the defense wasn't really doing their job on the O-line wasn't there, or whatever it might be. But in strongman, it's just like it's just you. And it's really easy for people to be like, oh, this guy just sucks. And it's like, no, he had one shitty thing or whatever. And I would say that Tristan didn't really have any shitty things this weekend. It was just a really, really hard competition, and he I don't believe he zeroed anything, or like it was just really, really difficult.
It was just, weird implements in the kettlebell. It was a very big, large implement, and we're strongman. We've never pressed a kettlebell before, let alone a 200-pound kettlebell. yeah, that's you can't get discouraged over bad events and bad competitions. Everyone has them. I've had them. Brick house competition 2022, 2020.
2021, yeah.
2021.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Talk about the button.
The button?
Yeah. At the Rogue.
Oh, the Rogue
The
thing.
button.
Yeah, I don't know. The buzzer thing. Let's talk about that a little bit, because that was a little bit of a hot topic when I was looking at the comments on the live stream, and even the comments afterwards, like rewatching it and stuff. Yeah. People don't like that fucking button.
I didn't at first either. Like, I think it's pretty silly how you're going to have your time dictated by how fast you can press a buzzer. You finish a stone run and you want to celebrate. That's what you normally do, right? You always celebrate, and then it slips your mind to, hey, I got to press this buzzer to stop my time. But on the flip side, how many people have said, oh, it's a stopwatch fall, it's a timer? Like, I guess you can mitigate that by having a buzzer. So it's on you whether or not you press it fast enough, I guess. You've seen that with Mel and Sam's run where it was literally 0.6 of a second.
Yes.
But when you slow it down frame by frame, you can clearly see Sam pressed it just before Mel. So right. I guess, yeah, you'd be pretty discouraged if you found out, hey, it was a stopwatch error when you're in a situation like that.
See, I've always said that when we go by like a referee stopwatch, especially like an amateur level, when we're just we have like volunteer referees or just like other strongmen who are helping out or whatever. If we get to like 1/100th of a second, that's a tie. I think that we have to call that tie, because there's no way that you can be like, well, I know for a fact that I pressed this. You know what I'm saying? So this does eliminate that though, and although it's kind of like it looks silly, like I think that's the problem with it, is that it looks like a game show, and that's not ideal. But I think the idea is there.
Yep.
And I think that if once they kind of like figure it out and make it look like less stupid,
right.
That'll be like a good way to go. Like someone suggested like pressure plates.
Yeah.
Like when you hit it, boom, there's your time.
Right. Yeah. Or even Shaw sometimes on his implements, like his vertical hoist, it lights up a light.
Yeah.
Where it's like, hey, you can do it electronically where it stops the timer or sends off a light that you finish. So you could do something like that. But back to the 100th of a second, I think when I first started, and maybe it was Cass, I can't remember, but like, yeah, they had a rule. If it was within 1 or 2 thousandths of a second, it was considered a tie.
Yeah,
you'd split the points.
Yeah.
And I thought that was fair, right? Because exactly, stopwatch. I know some competitions like the Arnold, I think, have 3 timekeepers, and they average out the 3, so maybe it's a little bit more accurate. So there is options, and yeah, the buzzer, maybe just because it's at the Rogue and CrossFit tend to do that. They kind of wanted to keep that theme, but at first I was kind of against it, but then, I guess it kind of mitigates the error. It just comes down to the athlete. They didn't know till Ruse meeting, so it's not like they knew months in advance that, hey, I have to press this buzzer after the event. So
then I kind of wish that.
Yeah, they only found out in the rules meeting.
Oh, that's something that I wish that they would have known earlier then. So they could have been like, I have to mentally prepare for the fact that like however I do in an event, it's not over until I press this little red button. That's interesting. Okay, I didn't really know that about it, but whatever. So it's like it's something that they might have to start thinking about as they move forward, especially with the rogue competition.
Yeah, or you could do like I think you said, you could have lasers. I know when I think Magnus came up to the Gimli show a couple years ago, we were doing the truck pull, and they had lasers, so the time stopped as soon as that bumper of the truck crossed that plane, and there's no questioning the timing because it's all done by lasers. So that's a way to go too, and they definitely have the money to do it. So
yeah, the rogue. I was like, when you watch that, you're like, it feels like you're watching like an NFL game or something. Yeah. Like it's just like they have the crane cameras and they have the drones and they have all. It's just like it's so big. And me and Jen were watching it yesterday, and I'm like, it's just so like aesthetically pleasing. Like everything looks so good.
Very good.
They have the kind of drab green turf. They have the black equipment. They have the wood on everything. Like everything just like those 3 things look really nice together. It feels like you're in like a really expensive looking gym or something. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I would love to make it there one day.
Maybe the CrossFit side.
Even compete in CrossFit maybe. Cut down 100 pounds maybe 120. I don't know.
So we have OSG coming up for you in the beginning of December here. You have goals that you want to get into from OSG, but what does next year look like for you in terms because you're a guy who's competed a lot in the past. When you were in AM, you competed. Like that's why we know each other, because you came and competed at a random Manitoba competition because you were just trying to get as many things as you could going.
Yep.
And that was something you did a little bit into your pro experience, but you just kind of slowed down a little bit as it made more sense to.
Yeah, a little bit.
So what do you see like? What would be your like your goal year next year? Like what would be the idea? Like let's say you do podium at OSG. What's your next year look like?
Well, I guess if I podium at OSG, it all kind of depends whether or not that merits a invite to World's Strongest Man. The past 2 years it has. So I'm kind of holding on to that hope. I think next year they're cutting the athletes down from 30 to 25 from what I hear. So it might be a little bit harder to get in if that's the route. I'm not too sure. But if I do podium at OSG and I do get invited to World's Strongest Man, that will be the goal for sure. I think it's earlier this year or next year. I think maybe in May. So that would be my sole focus if I do end up getting an invite there. And then if you do get to World's Strongest Man and compete, then that means that you get directly invited to Canada Strongest Man. So that's what happened to Tristan this year. So then I would bypass Western Canada Strongest Man, let someone else win it maybe, and and then
Oh my God.
and then yeah. So
Guy doesn't win it this year.
Well,
And
I
then says,
You're
yeah,
so humble.
a half a point. But anyways,
half a point.
yeah,
That's,
no, he'll beat me.
Oh boy, that makes a big difference on that podium, boy. I tell you though.
But so then, if that does happen, I wouldn't do Westerns. I would get invited to CSM automatically. But then that means that from this year's CSM, I qualify for North America's Strongest Man next year, and I'd like to do better there. So I competed there for the first time this year. Didn't quite have the placing that I wanted. Unfortunately, I kind of tweaked my calf on like the third event on the chuck pole, and that really affected my performance for the rest of the weekend. I still finished. I forget what I got. Ninth. I can't remember. Eighth.
15.
I don't know. I can't
Well, not 15, but I didn't. I beat some other people that.
I think people didn't realize at that show, because I think a lot of the names of the guys there aren't like I'm trying. It's not like the American guys that are at, like, say, it's not like Evan Singleton or whatever.
Yeah.
But I don't think people realized how insanely competitive that show was going to be until we started seeing some of the numbers that guys were putting up at that competition. Like the log was ridiculous.
The log there, I think, was the most people who've hit a 420-pound plus log in competition ever. Like,
Oh,
I
really?
Think,
Oh,
yeah,
that's
I think,
amazing,
I think
yeah.
more than Giants Live. I think there was
Yeah.
5 or 6 guys who have hit 420 plus.
It was
which
amazing.
is incredible. And
Yeah.
then Max hit, he just missed 465. Or no, maybe he did. He set a new Canadian record there.
Yeah.
Lucas could have probably hit 500. Like
I think it was there if you needed it that day.
unbelievable. Competitive there, but if I didn't get injured, which I hate saying because it's you coulda, woulda, shoulda, right? But I truly feel that if I didn't injure my calf, I could have been top 7, top 5 at North Americans. So next year, I really want to put a solid prep in for that competition.
You
Because
got
you never know.
11th.
11th?
Yeah.
Or to 16. Or to 16 with an injury. So
Shut up, Shan.
Went from 8th to 11th pretty quick.
So, yeah, not the performance I wanted, but, next year I want to put in a solid prep for that show. But also I want to, because I was top 10 at Shaw Classic, that means I get re-invited again.
Right.
And that's a show that I really want to put a solid prep in for, which this year I maybe had my priorities a little bit backwards, where I prepped for like 12 weeks for Westerns because we knew the event's so far out.
We had a really weird, like, long or big window for that one.
Like the longest we've ever had. So
sure.
like I prepped really hard and really long for that competition, where I honestly don't think I needed to. Like I could have used 8 of those weeks to prep for Shaw, where if you win Shaw, you get invited to Strongest Man on Earth, where if you podium at Westerns, you get to CSM. So I'll change that up a little bit next year for sure, because I truly feel that if I put a solid prep in for Shaw Classic, I could podium, but with that competition, you need to win. Like podium doesn't really matter.
No,
like you need to win to get invited to Strongest Man on Earth. So that's the goal there. And then maybe for the end of the year, I don't have to do OSG again. So then maybe I'll try and do Gimli, say, to try and qualify for the Magnus in Iceland. So that'll kind of be my season for next year, I think.
The level of competition's gotten pretty high at Gimli, though, these days, so I'm not sure if it's really your thing anymore.
Just give trophies out to anyone, I
They
guess. Gimli.
it's getting pretty stiff competition out that way, I tell you.
But not only that, like Gimli is a fun competition. I miss it this year.
Yeah.
I was actually going to do Saskatchewan Strongest Man, which was the same weekend, I believe. But my calf was still tweaked. I couldn't even compete. I was there to volunteer, but
Too scared. Way too scared.
there's a front hold in there, something or carry. I'm like, no, better not. But no, I like competing in Gimli, and then that opportunity is growing, right? Like this year at Magnus, official Strongman's kind of coming on with it, so like that could potentially lead to a Giants Live invite.
A lot of cool stuff coming there potentially.
So I don't know. I'd like to go Iceland again and maybe make a vacation out of it. It's always a good time to go there.
We're actually both the former strongest men of our province right now.
In the same year, yeah.
That's awesome.
A couple of has-beens right in front of me here.
And I Isaac beat me last time.
I know.
Little
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah, you let a little guy beat you. I let a new guy beat me. We're both terrible. But I'll be at North Americans with you to hang out.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
We got some more guys. I'm sure Tristan's going to be there again.
Colton.
Colton will be there. I'll be there. You'll be there. So that would be good representation from the West going out there. I'm excited to see who the other Canadians are. We put it together a pretty solid team this year. So next year, well, let's try and get more of that top half Canadians.
Yeah. It was those American guys were running roughshod there. They were ridiculous.
Bryce Johnson, he's another guy who's coming up to do OSG, who I think has a very good potential to podium. He's a freak. He's like 6'8" and like 400 some pounds. He makes me feel tiny.
Yeah.
And he's statically so strong, but he can still move.
Yeah. He's one of those guys where you see him and you're just like, oh, this is that next level.
Yeah.
Like this is this is what I have to be ready for. You know what I mean?
And not only Bryce, but also guys like Josh Spurgeon.
Sure.
He's we were kind of back and forth last year at the Shaw Classic and OSG. And then this year he just blew up and dominated the Shaw Classic Open, and now he's coming for the podium as well. So there's a lot of good guys. It's very hard looking at the list. I think there's 50 some guys in my class that honestly I think 15, 17 guys are fighting for top 10.
Right.
So now to top 10 to podium is pretty hard, and there's 4 World's Strongest Man competitors there. One of them being Spencer Remick, who's already won OSG, and he's podium there 2 other years.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be easy, but I'm looking forward to it.
It's interesting how much that spectrum goes. You said 50 guys, where there's a lot of guys like let's say if I went there, I'd be like, man, maybe they make the finals. We'll see kind of how it goes. You know what I mean? And there's a lot of guys who go there with that attitude, and then there's these guys who are just like, no, I'm here to fucking win this thing, and it's just and they could.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not just they have some crazy idea in their head. It's a extremely competitive class of guys for that one.
It is, and even last year when I get there, I kind of looking at some of these other guys. I'm like, oh, it's going to be hard to beat these guys. I don't think I can. I've seen what they can do online and even in other competitions. I'm like, man, these guys are going to make the finals for sure. But then they didn't.
Right.
So I was like, okay, everyone is beatable. It's just you can't let it get into your head, which it kind of happened to me last year. And you see guys who are there's one guy, Tyler, he was doing a 500-pound axle rack press. I'm like, holy shit. Right. And then he missed the dumbbell in the medley. So it's everyone can have a mistake or mess up, but you can't let them get in your head.
It's a very real thing where you kind of shrink yourself in your own mind. At least I do that sometimes.
Yep.
When I remember I got dominated the first time I went to CSM, but I remember looking around and being like, these guys are fucking huge. Even when I went to Westerns the first time.
Yeah.
I remember sitting at breakfast and being like, oh, man, I shouldn't even be here right now. You know what I mean? I was like, these guys are fucking gigantic. And, Tristan sitting there and all these guys, I'm just like, these guys are way stronger than me. And then you just show up and you just do, and actually, I kind of can't hang. You know what I mean? It's it's a good feeling until it doesn't happen. And then it's not a good feeling. But I think that it's for a guy like you where you show up something like that and you can start looking around and you see a Bryce Johnson or whatever where it's well, this guy's not even a human being.
Yeah.
But you also have to remember that, guys are looking at you and thinking the same thing.
That's right.
Right?
That's true.
You know what I mean? We're all everyone's aware of what everyone else can do. Everyone else is aware that if they're in that top 10, they're there for a reason. Or
Right.
or even at OSG, you're there for a reason.
Yep.
So it's going to be really, really fun to watch. And I'm really, really
There's
excited for that.
even guys like Lucas Hatton. Believe it or not, I have beaten him.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
The first Arnold Amateur, I beat him. He didn't even make the finals.
Right, yeah.
And then he beat me every single time. So,
But we always hold on to that one victory, don't we? That's an important thing that we do.
you can't let it slip.
I really do hope that you go to Worlds, because that would make 3 World's Strongest Man competitors that I've beaten.
Oh, yeah.
Because I've beaten Gabe, I've beaten Tristan, and then I would have beaten you. So I can hold on to that. I can hang my head on that for a long, long time.
Racking them up.
That'll be the new intro to the podcast. It's just me saying that.
Yeah.
We got time there, Jan.
35.
Okay, so what I wanted to get into a little bit too here is something that I asked Sam, and I'm kind of curious because you're a guy who pays very, very close attention to Strongman as a whole.
Yep.
And then also Canadian Strongman, and even Western Canadian Strongman. You got a pretty close, you got your finger on the pulse of a lot of the stuff that goes on here. A lot of guys go to you with questions or information on people, or if I put something in the pros group chat where I'm like, hey, who's going to win nationals this year? And then I'll put in brackets Jeffers, I'm asking you, because he's the only one who'll know. Who is somebody, and I want to open this up to men, women, any weight class, pro, amateur, I really don't care. Who's somebody that you see as this is somebody to keep your eye on in Canadian strongman?
Oof, that's a tough.
It's a big question, but I think that you're a guy who pays close enough attention that you can give a good answer to that.
Oof. I honestly don't pay too much attention to other weight classes at like the amateur level outside of the open men. There's a lot of strong weight classes, and the women too. Like I don't know
nobody. No, I'm kidding. Just kidding.
The up and coming women, I'm not too familiar with. Like we got some pros in Saskatchewan they're doing well, but up and comers. Oof. I mean, Tristan had a blowout. Pro level season, so you can't really say him because he's already there. Jeez, up and coming. Like I mean, Andrew. Like you can't argue Andrew's performance like this year. He went from his first show as a Langelaar, Andrew Langelaar, as a novice to winning nationals to becoming a pro now. So where his potential is next year. Like we're gonna find out. Like he did Westerns this year. And then he won Manitoba Strongest Man. So where he can go next year, I don't know. Like he's got the Arnold Amateur. Will it be interesting to see how he goes? Like Dan's putting in the work. He was here training today. I'm excited to see where he can go. Like he's doing OSG, so that's another big international competition for him. That he's done the Arnold Amateur, right? So but it's kind of a step. It's definitely a step up to do OSG. But for up and comers, like I honestly don't know. Like,
is there a young Sask guy? Like, I know that Sask doesn't really have like.
Well, yeah.
I don't mean just to be shitting on the Sask scene, but like it used to be that when I was, like when I was training with Dom, we were very jealous of the Saskatchewan scene because it was like Provic, it was Cummin, it was Isaac even. Like he was new at the time too, but like Sam was new and like Travis. Yeah, there were all these guys that were like, at the level that I was at, and like they were like. Way above me, and it was just like, damn, like these guys are so fucking good out there. And I feel like there's just like, obviously there's you, there's Mel, there's Sam still, there's Isaac, there's really good people still, but there doesn't seem to be that next wave of guys.
No, it has kind of died off a little bit, and I think maybe with nationals being in New Brunswick, kind of that maybe prevented some of the guys being able to make it out there. But there is actually one guy, Karsten from Saskatchewan. He's in Saskatoon. He just trains at like a local like gym, but he does come into like Barbarian to do some strongman implements, and he came to North Dakota Strongest Man with me this year. He competed at Saskatchewan Strongest Man. I think he maybe podiumed. I can't remember. I think he did, but he's got a big frame. He's like 6'3" and like 300 pounds. He's got the frame. He's done like 1,200 pound yokes, 400 pound farmers. So it's like he's very, very strong. He just needs to get experience, and I think actually he could potentially, if he puts the time in, and it's going to take consistency and hard work. Actually, I think Karsten could make it to the next level. I'd be excited to see if he does Western next year because he's big. He just needs the experience. He just needs to compete like I did when I first started. Like compete as many times as you can. I always said, compete as many times as your body will let you, or as much as you can financially afford it to compete. Get the experience, because that'll pay off in the end. So maybe Karsten, I think, is one guy from Saskatchewan, anyways, who can come up. I know you got guys like Alex Crisby, who's been knocking on that door for the past couple of years at nationals. So maybe him, and Andrew.
Do you know the Karsten guy? Like, is he a guy that you're?
I've messaged him a couple times on Instagram because, like, when I first seen him doing these like 1,000 pound yokes, 1,100 pound yokes in bare feet, I'm like, man, you got so much potential, and I'd hate to see you get injured. So I just like maybe like cut her back a little bit and practice on technique rather than just maxing out. But I mean, I'm not one to talk really because when I first started, like I trained with Isaac maxed out Maze.
Right.
I'm like, okay, we just maxed out all the time, and it was fun. Never got injured, which surprisingly, I don't know how I never got injured. And that's how I used to train and kind of still do sometimes, max out off program.
No kidding.
But that's what I'd say for guys like that. Just need to get experience.
Because it's an interesting thing too now, where we talk about how high the level of competition is getting in Western Canada. That I think that part of the battle is being a big, strong guy, and the other part of the battle is really wanting to be at that next level. Because it's not something that you can kind of be like, well, I'll dip in and then I'll maybe take a little bit of time off, and then it's like, well, I go to my cabin all summer, so I won't train then. But like, it's just, that's not really, unless you're Isaac, that just doesn't really work. Where you can just like go away from training for a long time and come back and still be really good. And I think that's kind of going to be the separating thing for somebody like Langelaar, say, who is very new, very inexperienced, but he is a guy who's willing to pour all of himself into something. Like he's pretty much done with powerlifting, it seems,
Yep.
because he's like, I want to do this strongman thing, and he's like a guy where his social life would make a lot of sense to you and me, where he's like, I really just think about this one thing.
And you do. If you want to get to the next level, I mean, that's what I did. I like literally slept, breathed, trained, strongman. Like
He still does.
I still do.
does,
Like,
yeah. Well, not probably now more than ever, honestly, right?
I've literally watched every single year World's Strongest Man, all the heats, just whether it's like sports film, you just watch it over. You look at technique, you look at training.
I think a lot of guys could stand to do that.
100%. I watch it, and I even still do. I watch all the streams in every competition, and just getting out there, getting experience, I believe, is what people need to do. And like you said, it has to be. It's a lot of dedication to do, and it's your sleeping, your training, your nutrition, finding the right training group is huge. Like when the scene in Saskatchewan has kind of died down a little bit. We had a lot of pro strong women at Metal at our gym. They've kind of retired, and some other strongmen have retired. So don't have the same training group that we used to, but still having people like Isaac and Mel really makes those training days easier.
Right.
People even to help load your plates. It's like when
That goes such a long way, dude.
it does, and you really need to find that environment. Whether you have to travel or not. Like I have to drive 45 minutes a day each way to Metal, but I do that 2 times a week because I train at a local gym in Moose Jaw. But to get to that next level, you have to put in the work and the dedication to do that. You need to find that environment.
I think it's really interesting too that like, so like people who don't know strongman aren't going to give a fuck, but there's two guys and a girl in Regina right now who are 3 of the best in the world at what they're doing. Isaac's one of the best lightweight guys to ever do it.
Yeah.
Mel's one of the best women to do it, and you're this guy who's waiting for this next breakout opportunity for yourself. And if people just knew that, like, oh, I could do, like, if you were just like, oh, I play hockey, and there's the best fucking female hockey player, there's the best fucking, like fast skater, and there's the best heavy hitter here, and they're all training on the same fucking backyard rink, and it's like, oh, well, I don't want to go there, it's just like, it's just such an interesting thing to me, because it's just like I think a lot of people would kill for that training opportunity. And okay, so here's a question for you: if somebody wanted to jump in on yours and Mel's and say like Isaac or whoever, like, and Keelan's always there too, but like your guys' group that you have there, is that like, would you let someone jump in? Like, would you let someone join your training? Because it's like you guys have a pretty special thing there, it seems like.
We do. I would if they were serious. Like they would have to take it seriously because it makes it easier for everyone, really. Like for Mel and her rogue prep, her like push, pull, carry medley was brutal to set up and brutal to take down. And if you're doing that by yourself, you just can't do it. No. It's too much work. So I wish I did. I wish I had more people to come train with me. And even in Moose Jaw, there's a lot of strong like gym bros that like they're just out of high school, like squatting 405. I'm like, man, I wish I could have done that in high school.
Yeah, they're scared to talk to you, I think.
They don't have to talk to me. But yeah, if I could, I would love to have my own space in Moose Jaw to maybe bring that environment to Moose Jaw, because it does kind of suck having to drive to Regina every day to do that. But if someone was out there who wanted to join us, I would love that for sure.
Because you and Mel training together, like I think everyone's seen your videos and stuff, and they know that you guys are pretty closely connected training partners.
Yeah.
That's like a relatively new thing though. Like within the last couple of years?
Last couple of years. I've been at, like, we both been going to Metal for 4 or 5 years, but she was kind of doing her own thing, and I was kind of doing my own thing. And then, just the past couple of years where we've been prepping for the same shows sometimes.
Right.
Like the Shaw Classic, the past, I don't know. She did it 2 years. So we've both done the same shows the past 2 years. So it's pretty easy to train. We're doing the same implements. We just got to change our weights accordingly.
Because I think that's interesting that what the fuck is going on back there right now?
Dolly farted.
Oh, okay. I was like, what could possibly be happening that you guys are waving your arms around? And anyway, what I was going to say was that it's interesting because, like, I think that it would be intimidating for someone to say jump in with you guys and start training with you, because you're this big heavy lifting guy, and even Mel is going to outlift almost any guy that comes in there. Yeah. But you and Mel can train together, even if you're doing like the same implements, because whether you have to unload the weights or load them back up or whatever, she trains with an intensity that matches yours. Yeah. And I'm sure that it makes it very worthwhile to have to fuck around with the weights or fuck around with the implements or change the height on the yoke or whatever it might be every time, because that's like a really invaluable thing.
It is. It's almost priceless, honestly. Yeah, for sure. Because
so I have, like, say, like Dan who trains here with me, and I feel very lucky, or even Thrones,
Yeah.
we're not training the same thing.
Yep.
Like Dan's training for OSG and I'm training for the MVM thing, and they're not, and there's almost no crossover whatsoever. But we can train at the same time and know that we're pushing each other in that way, because it's more about the attitude, the atmosphere than anything else.
The atmosphere is big, and that's why I came here too. Well, obviously to do the grip show, but I knew we were going to train the next day. I knew Dan was going to train OSG events, you were training Magnus events, but it's just that environment. Like a few weeks ago, I drove out to Edmonton to train at Tristan's gym, and Colton was there, Lars was there, and it was just that training environment that is priceless. I tried the 500-pound stone there, and I failed, but I got to stop maxing out to these other gyms. But if you take it seriously enough and the dedication, like we drove 8 hours west, went to Edmonton, trained, drove home the next day, came here, drove 6 hours east, trained, and some people would kill for that, just to have people that close that take it that seriously, that close to them that they could do that. Not everyone has that luxury, I guess, but if you take it seriously enough, you're willing to do whatever it takes to put yourself in that environment.
We were talking earlier about, like, say, Wes Derwinski, who's pretty isolated in where he is, and I think it takes a very special kind of mindset to be able to still push yourself when you're by yourself in that way, and not having the external thing of like other guys who are also trying to push themselves, and you just have to be like laser focused at that point. That's hard to do.
You do, and another training group that you see is very close is like Max, Joey, and Sam.
Yeah.
Like, I would love for that environment. Like Joey's the best hype man ever.
Yes.
And I wish I had that training partner, right? And I've had people like say, "Oh, you should go over there and train with them," and say, "Yeah, they're like probably a 20-hour drive away, so it's not like, hey, we just
further than that." Yeah, it would be
road trip to New Brunswick. Like
it's a $1,500 flight or a 30-hour drive or whatever you want to look at it. So,
but it would make one hell of a YouTube video,
and it would be fun to do. You know, like you said, like they have an atmosphere there that you can't just manufacture. Like you can't, like I can't just be one day wake up and be like, I'm gonna start being like Joey is.
Yeah,
because that just wouldn't work. Like you have to be. He's a very genuine, and like Max, like he's one of the most like intense guys. Like, they call him the Wolverine, and it's because he's fucking vicious. You know what I mean?
Is.
And when he lifts, you know, he does stuff that if you saw other people do it, you'd be like, come on. But when it's Max doing it, when he fucking pounds on his own head, and when he's like fucking like yelling and talking to himself and stuff, you're just like, this isn't like an act. Like this isn't something that he's doing for the cameras. It's not something he would do that if it was just him alone in his gym. And there's like an intensity there that you just can't manufacture. And I mean, that's just not the way that I train. But like,
I wish I could get there.
like it's a really interesting to see guys who like that's like their state. You know, that's just the way they are.
I wish.
So speaking a little bit of what you just mentioned there was that you came here to do this grip competition for us. We had the first ever Manitoba grip sport competition, Iron Claw, and we had it right here in our gym. Success on all fronts. We ended up having, I think it was like 39 was the number of lifters that we had. We had 9 women, I think it was what it was, and we had a bunch of like older guys too, which was really cool. I think like that's kind of what I wanted, to be honest with you. Like,
you wanted to make sure.
Yeah, I really wanted this to be a thing where, I wanted there to be the guys who it's like, yeah, maybe a full strongman competition isn't something that I really want to do, but I want to compete and I want to do something where I can show that I have a strength to me and I'm strong, and I think that this kind of achieved that. And you were nice enough to come down and basically show us how it's done, because I'd never even been to one before. And I don't know. What do you think about it? How do you go for it?
I think it was very successful. I even had Eric Rosan, who's the godfather of like grip sport in Canada and arm wrestling in Canada, and he reached out to me and said, hey, it was like a very professional live stream. Everything looked like it went really well. So if he's happy, I'm happy, and if I'm happy, you're happy, because it was a very successful, for the first time ever, grip competition. It does make for longer days. They are definitely long days, and with 39 people, it's probably the most people I've ever had at a grip competition. And we were kind of lifting on 2 platforms. So the fact that we were able to accommodate that was pretty cool. And we've seen a couple records with Anna and Jose on the hub, which is a national record, which is incredible to hit on your first grip competition ever. And excited to see how many people showed up, different weight classes, different ages, and now it sets a standard for those people who they know what their limits are for these events. So maybe there's a next competition with the same implements, and then they could adjust their attempts above or below. And it's always a tough thing, because you don't want to go in too early, and then you're like, oh, I left some pounds on the table, but then you don't want to jump in too late. You're like, hey, I only used 2 of my 6 attempts.
Because both those things did happen.
100%.
It's going to happen, right? Like it's really like if you said to somebody like just you can go to any experienced lifter in any gym and be like, hey, what's your hub grip max?
Yeah.
And they're going to be like, I have no fucking idea. Like, I couldn't even begin to guess. You know what I mean? So even though these people, like, say, Jose, who, set a Canadian record in the hub grip.
Yep.
She's done every fucking strength sport that there is known to man. She's and like for like a long time.
Yeah.
She's world's strongest woman competitor. She's a Highland Games national champion. She runs the arm wrestling. She's been to the Arnolds for that.
Yeah.
And she's never done a grip competition.
Yeah, that's wild.
So that's why it was really important to me. She was kind of the one that I had in mind when I had it sanctioned with Grip Sport International, because I was like, if something happens, I want there to be this like made official. And that's why I had you out and stuff too, because I didn't want it to seem like it was just some backyard thing where I was like, hey, we set a record, but I can't do anything about it. You know what I mean? And Anna, I did not anticipate her showing up the way that she did, and tying Jose for that same record. Like,
I was actually looking at it last night, and like there's Grip Sport International record, which is like there's Grip Sport Canada, which that Eric runs, and then there's Grip Sport, which I think Jed runs, and for the hub 6-inch lift, I think Anna and Jose, I think their top set would have been like 4th in the world.
Wow.
For that lift. So Eric will confirm that, I'm sure. But yeah, that's insane to hit on the first time, which is incredible.
Yeah, and shout out to Eric too for reaching out and making the whole process of getting sanctioned stuff very easy, and he reminded me when I forgot a couple times. So
the good thing with grip is that it carries over into strongman.
For sure.
Like all the different weird little implements, whether it's a hub, a double overhand axle, a pinch, it all carries over to strongman. Yeah. And I've had so many people say, oh, like, how's your grip good? How's your grip good? And I'm like, well, it's because I do stuff like this. It's not like I train grip specifically all year round, but it's like if I do a grip competition, I'm going to train those implements, and it's all going to carry over to strongman.
If you're doing the hub grip, it's making your digits stronger. If you're doing the pinch grip, it makes your pinch, like, these are all things that we use.
Your sandbag picks, absolutely. Your stone picks, for
that open hand strength that you get when you're doing stuff like, say, the pinch flask. Like, that's going to carry over to being able to grab a sandbag. It all relates, and it was, and just to speak again on Eric, like, it was $25 to get it sanctioned. So these guys are not doing this to get rich off of it. They're doing it because they really care about the sport, and I really can appreciate that kind of passion for it. And because he emailed me too and said he was really happy with how it turned out and everything. And so shout out to Thrones for doing a great job as he always does.
I watched a little bit of it last night, and his live stream is like incredible. Yeah, I don't think that's ever been done for a grip sport competition.
Yeah, he always does a really great job with it.
That's really good.
I spoke to Eric on the phone as we were leading into it, and so he was like, "Hey, it's great you guys are trying to start this thing, whatever, blah blah blah." He's like, "He's like, have you had any kind of like interest in it so far?" And I was like, we're at like 40 people registered. And he was like, "Oh my god!" Like, I don't think that's something that happens super often. So I want to just say, thank you to every Manitoba competitor who stepped up and did it. Like, we had people from powerlifting, arm wrestling, people who had never competed in any kind of strength sport before. Strongman, we had Gian do it. We had just this huge array of people who just were like, I want to try this thing, and it really meant a lot to have something be so successful the first time around. And I'm sure some of them tried it, and they probably were like, I never need to do that again, and that's absolutely fine.
Yep.
But I really respect the number of people who came out and just gave it a shot.
It was very successful. Yeah.
Yeah. So, James, before we kind of start to wrap up things here a little bit, let's kind of plug some of the stuff that you have here. So you guys have your YouTube channel that you and your lovely wife Keelan put together that heavily features Mel, and Isaac pops in and out whenever he's doing his stuff and whatever. What's the info on that?
Yeah, I think it's just James Jeffers Strongman. We've been doing that for a few years now. We just became monetized actually not that long ago.
It's starting to really take off.
It is, and it's been a grind, and not everyone can do it. It's definitely a lot of work. Keelan, she edits the videos like every single
film edits.
She films,
produce,
edits. She does
adds commentary to it sometimes.
I do add commentary.
I really enjoy it. Like, it's one of those things that we don't watch a lot of strongman content, me or Gian. Like, we don't, like, I think that most of the pro stuff is really fucking boring now. It's really derivative and boring. Like, ooh, I ate my girlfriend's meal for a day. Like, that stuff sucks. Stop doing that stuff.
Yeah.
But I love the training videos. Like, I like your stuff. I like Lucas Hatton's stuff.
Yeah.
I hate most of the other people's stuff. But your guys' shit is just like, it feels like you're hanging out with you guys watching you train.
And that's honestly how it is. It's a good and train environment, but we take it seriously. I know we joke around a lot, and we laugh and we talk way too much, but we do put in the work and we do train really hard. And the fact that we could document that journey along the way is pretty cool, because you look back from our first video and it's like, oh my god, I'm so small and so weak. But it's just a constant progression that you can go back and look at and we're knocking on the door of 1,000 subscribers, which is still crazy that 1,000 people subscribe and watch us. And now we have like a membership option that we're still working out the details with that, but they get like first access to the videos, and they get like check marks beside their name, and they can make comments and stuff like that. So it's going to keep growing, and every competition we go to, we usually get more subscribers. Like the Shaw, every year we get like 10,000 views in their videos because it's trending. Same with OSG, and we'll get hundreds and hundreds of more followers. So I'm excited to see where we can keep pushing that and keep documenting our journey. And even like Mel, we're filming here, we're filming in Edmonton. So it's always nice to get more training partners in that training group on video, on camera.
And I like that too, because I like that we have this like kind of network of Western Canadian guys, like me and Gian now, we do our thing here with the podcast, and you have your training videos, and Tristan does his thing, and we're just trying to like just kind of let people know that there's shit going on here. You know what I mean? And there's a scene to be seen, and it's getting bigger and better all the time.
Yep. No, I love it. I'm here for it.
Yeah. So the YouTube, that's something that everyone should be checking out. Everyone should be subscribing to. Should be watching every week. It's very, very fun. Your Instagram is James_Jeffers_train_Tyler
Strongman. James Tyler Jeffers. Strongman.
Okay, hold on. Before we go, we make fun of you all the time for the James Tyler Jeffers things, but the reason for that, if anyone doesn't know, I don't think we've already gone into it, but is that when we did our first CSM in 2022, they were like, "Okay, give us your full name and then talk about Canada's Strongest Man," or whatever the fuck it was.
Yeah.
And for some reason, you said,
I said, James. They said, "Hi, what's your name?" I said, James Tyler Jeffers. And the only reason I did that is because on like the circuit YouTube videos, it starts off with JF saying Jean-Francois Coron. So I'm like, okay, I gotta say my name is James Tyler Jeffers.
That's funny.
That's the only reason I said it, is because JF.
Jeffers said, well, JF uses all of his names.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, but you're not JF.
Wow, that really shed some light onto the whole thing. I don't think I knew that part. That's really funny.
That's the only reason, because I do feel silly watching it back.
Hey man, well that first year there's the shots of everyone like doing their cool tough guy faces, and I'm just like, because no one told me that we weren't supposed to smile, so I didn't fucking know. Like the guy didn't tell me that, so
it's like, just happy to be here.
Yeah, and that's exactly what it came across as.
And that you were.
And I was thrilled to be there. Okay,
won
so
the backlift, so
exactly. Hey, first only Manitoban to ever win an event at CSM. You can't ever take that away from me until someone else does. But we, with the wrapping up of the grip competition, we're getting very, very close to the end of our 2024 competitive season here. Thank fucking God. We have Deep Freeze, our WRPF meet that's been the most tumultuous, off and on again thing I could possibly imagine. I really look forward to never helping the powerlifting community again after this. I will not do another meet for a long, long time. Sorry, Martin. But the WRPF meet, and that's not because of the WRPF. I want to say right now that they have been so good to us, so helpful, so above and beyond what any federation needs to do to make sure that this meet has happened, despite what the goddamn IPF has tried to do. So thank you to them for just being amazing. Anyway, we have our push-pull on November 23rd here. Our own, I think he's gone now, but he's behind him before. Scott is going to be going for a 500-pound bench press, and I would be shocked if that's the heaviest that he gets that day, honestly, the way that his training's been going. Unbelievable. Ladanian's going to be lifting, going for those mid-sevens deadlift. Thrones is going to be lifting. I don't even know what he's going to try to lift that day. He hit almost 850 at Deadlift for Dreams, so God knows what he could be going for here. And it's going to be just an awesome day. Come down. We're going to be doing the same deal that we did with our grip competition here. Spectatorship will be free, but we'll be accepting donations to go towards the Manitoba Brain Injury Association. That's what do you call it? A thing that's near and dear to mine and Gian's heart. So it's really important to us that we support as much as we can. We had Millie and Maya's lemonade stand that raised $200 just selling lemonade. So awesome. We're very happy with that. We're very thrilled that we could we weren't going to take any money for spectators at this thing anyway. So just to have $200 that we can give to us a thing out of nowhere is really, really nice little surprise. So that's great. And then that would take us to the end of the competitive season here finally. And Dan's going to OSG. I'm going to Iceland. And then we'll all just have a Merry Christmas together, and that'll be it. So thank you to James Jeffers for coming in. Sincerely, you made that competition like we could not have done it without you. It would have been a fucking nightmare. So one of my dear friends in Strongman here. Shut up, Gian. And we'll call it there for this week and see you guys next week. Thanks, James.
Thanks for having me.
Hooray! Also, are you guys not going to tell the story about the hole in the wall? We can add that as like an extra
Yeah, well,
scene at the end here.
Yeah, we'll show the hole in the wall, and we can get into that later.
What?
What hole in the wall?
Yeah, there's no hole in the walls.
Oh, okay.
Are we talking like Manitoba glory hole in the wall?
I was like,
You can probably see the hole.
I know, but talk about it.
James fell through the fucking wall. What do you want? That's it. That's it.
Yeah.
Here, let's. I can't zoom in that far. It's going. It's going. It's going.
Just trust that it's there.
There. Crack the wall. Second slant.
Thanks for doing that.
Oh yeah, no. I appreciate it.
Good job, guys.
That's fine.